It's
Like number 2.
okay. Hold on. Look at that.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the HAL Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
HAL Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
HAL Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
How are you this fine morning, Johnny Million?
I'm good. What's that last "Let's do this" from? That sounds so familiar.
It's that was added by Chicago. So I want to say it's from Community. No, like a Parks and Rec something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but either way, it speaks to the quality of and the verve of the show, if I may use the word verve, and I think that I can this close to the holidays.
Yes. Can I use the word pipe?
No, not at all. That's off limits. As a matter of fact, we got to wait for the 7-second dump to catch up with us because that word is censored. Not because smoking one or Saint Nick is known to have one. Sherlock Holmes used to, but the way you use it it deals with anatomy. Right, it's gross. Yep. So yeah, it's exactly the issue. All right, so welcome to the show, everybody. It's HAL Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide. We're here every Saturday, and we appreciate you being here. If you're watching on the live stream at infotainmentwars.com or twitch.tv/HAL Sparks, we're everywhere. We're on Facebook, and we're streaming out live into your car right now. Relax.
Yay! Hal Vickery gave us $25 for testing positive for COVID.
Oh, no. He tested positive for COVID? That's terrible.
Yeah, but he feels okay.
All right. Well, that's the good part because he's been vaccinated and he's going to be just fine. And that's the lovely part. And Johnny has a cat on his lap. I have two foster kittens upstairs I saw them on Summer's feed. They look lovely. They're in Cam's room right now. He's got roommates. And just great stuff. So we're all set up for the holidays. The heat has been turned on, so my voice is a little dry. I have a little bit of a light scratchy, light cough or whatever, and I think it's just because because it's 46 degrees here, which in Chicago standards it's reasonable. You know what I mean? It's not
I would bundle if I were going to run.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and you more likely wouldn't because you'd be West Coast acclimated, which is terrible for runner's blood. But yes, it is. Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. Now, there's lots of stuff to talk about this week. Carrie Lake just announced that she's going to sue Katie Hobbs and Arizona for not electing her. And
this is my surprise face.
Yes, right. And I think that's great. I think anytime I think that should be the standard for winners and losers in the country. If you win, just take the job. If you lose, you should sue till you get
sue.
Just sue it, because that's what
people's time.
It's what winners do. It really is. And then there, of course, there's a lot to talk about what's going on in Ukraine currently right now. Angela Merkel, referencing the Minsk agreement, gave as a way of giving Ukraine time to prepare for the inevitable attack that Russia was going to do, is being read as, we planned this all along to attack Russia by making them attack Ukraine. Same argument that's been going on for months from the same people, but we'll discuss that a little bit with Philip in our second one. But I think we should, between you and I, discuss finally the Twitter files, because I really haven't touched on them much at all because there isn't much there. So they're already on their third iteration. The first two have been lead ballooning their way through the right-wing nut jobosphere, where they're doing a lot of "I told you so," because Dan Bongino's account, this is probably the one that stands out the most, in the second iteration of the Twitter files, apparently had a do not amplify and a search don't help search for him or make him unsearchable on the site, because he had multiple TOS violations. Not because of his politics, not because they just don't like conservatives or they don't like his stupid face. It's because they literally were just saying, he's had this many violations for a time, because he doesn't seem to be learning his lesson. We're going to let him back on, but there should be a period which he's not as readily available as other stuff. Now, the fun part, if I may, sorry, I have to close my door because the cats have a story to tell. The fun part for me was that going through these things, there is you've got Elon Musk, who clearly has a dog in this fight, and is
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does. He's watching, and if he's having to put that dog down apparently because it is not doing well. It's can't stand anymore. Has to drag itself to the water bowl. It's getting very sad. And I'd like to remind everyone,
Dragging himself to the water bowl.
right? If it cost him $44 billion to purchase Twitter at $53 a share, or 55.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't think he wanted to buy it really.
Yeah, you think it? Because I do, and I'll tell you why.
Oh yeah, I feel like he just got. I think he just got caught in a dare, and it's like, okay, I'll eat the dog turd.
Didn't he try to pull out twice?
Yes, but only because it was.
You just like saying that, Devin.
The stock quit it, you guys, because the stock price went down because he could have bought it at a cheaper price. He was, the goal was, just so you know, there is a monetary infrastructure that will come out, using Meta as a platform in a bunch of different areas. I mean, people are literally buying virtual real estate in the metaverse already for stupid amounts of money. That is going to be a norm at some point. Mix that with an already existing monetary structure inside of video games like Call of Duty and others, where you transfer money into Call of Duty points and you use that to buy stuff in the game. You don't just buy it directly for cash, because you can also earn those coins in the games, and if you don't have enough, you can add actual cash in, and that's how you get some of the loadouts and the other stuff. And as a Call of Duty player, guilty as charged. I've done both, and so that is, for all practical purposes, a foreign currency.
The two times that my finances have been compromised, like somebody got a hold of my PayPal, and another time someone got a hold of my credit card, they bought virtual stuff.
Yes, right, because they can transfer it without much of a, the trail is so digital, you can't find them physically.
Exactly. So, they went and bought a bunch of armor for Fortnite or something, or
and then you can sell it.
These transactions they're not in line.
Right.
They're not in line with my normal spending.
You didn't get the big banana suit in Fortnite?
No. If somebody compromised my credit card and bought a banana suit, no harm, no foul.
In real life, yeah. As long as it's not virtual. I mean, come on. So
real life banana suit.
There is. Think about this in terms, and this, sometimes you need a little bit of because let me explain something. Crypto is insane. We are all seeing it collapse, just like I said it would. It's ridiculous.
I'm looking at it. I'm thinking it might be my time to jump in.
Right? It is. Yeah. Wait for the bottom, Johnny. That's all I'm saying. So now basically, and the irony, the beauty, the hilarity is that the very same people who are telling you gold is real money are the same people selling crypto. Exact same humans. Hilarious, makes no sense. But that's for another day. But the idea that you convert physical money into a digital currency and then back into physical money happens all the time. You use a debit card, for example, but it's representative of a dollar is a dollar is a dollar, whether it's in physical form or not. The difference is that when you create a secondary monetary system like Call of Duty points, or you just buy credits for ads on Facebook at a certain price point, which is technically a conversion, you are still adding to the monetary value of both of those entities, both Activision and Microsoft, or Facebook, Meta, and from that they slice off a piece that their service that they're providing you for allowing you to buy stuff through there is a lucrative business model, okay? The reason why Musk wanted Twitter was it was the cheapest of the top. Instagram had already been bought by Meta. Snapchat's not going anywhere. TikTok is a Chinese company. It's malware. Don't go anywhere near it. Twitter is the cheapest date in town. If you were going to buy and take over something that already had the base that you could build off of and make billions of dollars, Twitter is the thing. But to do that, you have to set up one of these exchanges. You have to find some way that people are making money on Twitter besides just advertising. The users themselves, like, I live stream on YouTube, or I live stream on Twitch, or I live stream on Facebook, or people sell products on Facebook, or those kind of things. Twitch doesn't really have the architecture to do that. But if you could add it, its worth would double, triple, what have you, over time. And it's got enough customers where that's a reality. Okay, so that's why he wanted it. And ultimately his goal was, at least early on, was to use Dogecoin, which is a crypto that he was very invested in, as a way of, as the primary currency exchange in that upcoming marketplace, thereby jump-starting Bitcoin and crypto using Twitter as a portal. He has a lot of money in crypto, and this was a way to buoy it as it was sinking. As it was sinking.
That's one of my Tourette's. I'm sorry.
It's fine. But the thing you need to know is that the timing was almost as bad as his idiotic Shanghai Gigafactory choice. Because where people might think that he's a good idea man when it comes to futurism, when really he just kind of borrows and slathers on, he wants to be Bill Gates. Let Apple do all your R&D.
He's still working on getting those kids out, the miners out of that mine.
Is he, while cursing the people who do it? So ultimately, that was the idea, that Twitter will eventually become a portal by which you buy and sell things, and to do it, you have to set up an FTX kind of a system, this whole thing that just crashed. You have to set that up within Twitter where you put money into Twitter using your credit card, your debit card, or some other source, a gift card, what have you, like you can do GameStop cards and that and whatnot. And then while it's inside the internal structure of Twitter, it exists as Dogecoin with its ups and downs. And then when you want to get money out of it, if you're on the other side of a pay transaction, you get it out in cash by selling Dogecoin that you have because someone else gave it to you. That's it. Meanwhile, both giving Elon Musk a slice of money from the transaction fees itself and buoying Dogecoin as a worthwhile coin. I'm going to reach through the...
I'm really happy with myself.
It's good. No, it's great. I like it. I need it because this is so dry and annoying to me. But to raise that up so that he could make money off his investment in Dogecoin. That's essentially that's what he was thinking when he was smoking pot late last year, coming up with this stupid plan. I'm telling you, he was gaming Call of Duty. He plays all the time, and he was smoking weed, and he was going, I've got it. If I can make Call of Duty points a thing using crypto in Twitter, then it's worth, 200 billion instead of 50. That was the idea. The problem was his timing stinks, and he doesn't think that kind of stuff through. And he also doesn't know how it works at all and didn't bother to do any of the research, and so it started to collapse. We've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into the beginning of the Twitter files and the irony that the third iteration of the Twitter files actually point to the fact that one of the guys working at Twitter is a huge Trumper and was jonesing to let the cat out of the bag whenever Trump got in trouble, but ignoring the fact when lefties got in trouble. Fascinating. We'll be back right after this. It's the HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you're watching us on any of the streams, wherever you are. If you're just listening on the radio, just smile. You're going to be all right. We'll be back in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's slide this over here. If you can look at this. And then there's a... What's this dude's name? Hold on, I have to find him. Yoel Roth. Yoel Roth is this guy. Yoel Roth. Yeah. Who works at Twitter and who's like... Taibbi is using him as an example of somebody who is like, you know, bragging about his FBI meetings being about Trump when that's indeed what this dude is doing. Like, the whole point is he's trying to make it look like Trump is an innocent victim here. He's siding with Trump and all this stuff. You can see it in his Slack arguments. By the way, these guys have access to everyone's business Slack there now, after the fact. And
Harold Smith is saying
Thank you.
tell Hal to mention his Rumble channel too. Do you have a Rumble channel, Hal?
I am on Rumble. That's true. I am
What's
literally
Rumble again?
Rumble.com. I have no idea. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to go to this.
Careful with that. It's that one time my friend wanted to go to Dick's Sporting Goods and he typed in Dicks.com.
Yeah, you're good. Or tried to sign up for the insider card that they give.
Dick's inside.
They do.
You made me say it out loud.
I did. By the way, Tom Yatabe and I both have one. We drove out when Dick's was a small store, when there were only a few of them. They had that. It's
You
true.
both have a Dick's insider card.
We both have it. I have to find it. It's around somewhere. We were both so proud.
Molly.
We went out and signed up for a
Welcome
Dick's
back to the
Insider.
HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So yeah, I am on Rumble as well. Although I just look up Hal Sparks. That's my account name on Rumble, because I'm only on there to irritate right wingers, because that's their. They think that's base. They think they're safe there or something like that. That's their little cul-de-sac, and they're like, leave us. It's their safe space, to use the vernacular of the time. Now.
Right.
So we've had the first of the Twitter files was done by Matt Taibbi, a guy who started his career by having a misogynistic e-zine in Russia, making fun of expats and how they would sexually harass the Russian women in their office.
That is so weird, because same.
Yeah, that's right. That's where
thing.
It was. That was your initial job order. It just didn't go as far, because yours was in crayon. And
I'm not good at it. And my idea of misogynistic jokes is it's apparently adolescent.
Far too polite. It doesn't work. Yeah.
I'm way too polite.
Yeah, you couldn't even what was that? Kevin's Mom Has Got It Going On. I remember when that song would come on and you would blush.
Stacey's
You're just
mom.
terrible at it.
Yeah.
So
bad.
So Matt Taibbi did the first round. Then Barry Weiss, who is a female and is not a soul singer who we lost. Well, that's a different person, just to clarify. That's Barry White. Did the second round, also a dud. Third one is up, and this one is Thread, the Twitter files, titled "The Removal of Donald Trump, Part 1, October 2020 to January 6th." Now, this is from a thread. So when do you think the removal of Donald Trump from Twitter really gathered steam in that time range from October 2020 to January 6th? Was there anything in particular that really...
There's a lot of Christmas tweets, I bet.
There were a lot of Christmas treats. That didn't do it.
No.
New Year's, nothing.
Nothing on New Year's.
No. December 14th, was the day that they had to turn in the electoral votes, certify all the state elections.
Yeah.
That would have been one of them. All right. So this is from Taibbi's thread, which, by the way, he and Barry Weiss signed an agreement that they can write these things on their own Substacks and whatnot and make as much money, but they have to first publish them on Twitter, basically to drive up traffic. This is what this is for. So I'm doing it so you don't have to. The world knows much of the story of what happened between riots at the Capitol on January 6th and the removal of President Donald Trump from Twitter on January 8th. No, they don't. Not on the inside, anyways. That's me speaking. That's ridiculous. We know that he fomented this attack, and with his whole like, we're gonna walk down there, and I'm gonna go with you, and we're gonna go down peacefully and patriotically. But if they don't do what we need, you're gonna have to be strong, or you won't have a country left.
You should have fight.
Which is basically like, don't destroy anything on the way to keep your powder dry. Wait till you see the whites of their eyes kind of talk but from an idiot. We'll show you what hasn't been revealed. The erosion of standards within the company in the months before J6, decisions by high-ranking executives to violate their own policies and more against the backdrop of ongoing documented interaction with federal agencies. This first installment covers the period between the election through January 6th. Tomorrow, Schellenberger will detail the chaos inside Twitter on January 7th. Yeah, because why bother writing articles about the chaos in the Capitol on the 6th? On Sunday, Barry Weiss will reveal the secret internal communications from the key date of January 8th, when Trump is still trying to foment violence in the country. Whatever your opinion on the decision to remove Trump that day, he violated the terms of service, and he
did check a box when he signed up. He checked that box.
Oh, he did. The internal communications at Twitter between January 6th and 8th have clear historical import. This is the part where, by the way, they're like, we know this is a dud, but we're part of history because we should tell you how the conversation went, which was there was a big back and forth. Now, are we seeing in this thread the undoctored, are there links in this thread insofar as I've seen that lead you to, here's the whole conversation? What do you think the answer is to that question? Johnny Million from Chicago, Illinois. Stepping up, you buzzed in first. What do you think the answer is to, are these things sourced, and is the context of the greater conversation actually shown in this Twitter thread? Dun, 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 dun.
I'm going to say no. I think there might be some cherry picking.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner. Ladies and gentlemen, not only are you not seeing links to these messages that are put in here as examples of bias and whatnot, you are seeing, wait for it, photographs, pictures.
What? Somebody took pictures with their phone of the monitor?
They're screenshots of stuff. And
literally a screenshot shot.
Yeah, well, that's what Barry Weiss did. Matt Taibbi literally is just clipping stuff off of his screen. But the point is, it's not searchable. You do not have the database to look at it. Maybe they will in the future, but it's very telling that they're not doing it right out of the gate. And by the way, if there were ever a situation where Elon Musk could flip a switch and say they have special footnoting ability where they can put in a lot of other links, like we can only put one link in, right? But, you could put in 7 links on something. Believe me, these guys would be allowed to do it. Flip of a switch. It would not, a digital switch, even at that, a mouse click. So he shows the first one he shows. Mm-hmm. Even Twitter's employees understood in the moment it was a landmark moment in the annals of speech. Simmer. And it shows an unnamed, pictureless.
I'm here. I'm listening.
It's an unnamed, pictureless account because it's been redacted with the time they posted it in the day, but not the date, which I don't know what the hell that is. And the statement from the employee is this the first sitting head of state to ever be suspended? Ta-da. And now, I would like to say for the record that I don't understand why Republicans are so blind to the idea that in guaranteeing government employees, even the president of the United States, a social media account that they are guaranteed to be verified and guaranteed to have one by force of government is indeed itself totalitarian, authoritarian, censorship, message control. A lot of Aryans.
All the Aryans.
Yes, all of the Aryans, and some that would now, because if the government can go, yeah, you can start a social media network, but you have to give the president of the United States an account. Just saying it in those terms, I think any right winger would recognize that's nuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like saying you can open a restaurant, but you have to have a small special chair set there for the governor all the time in case he wants to come in and eat. You can open up a mall, but you have to have one of the dressing rooms assigned to the Secretary of State. She has to come in and, she can come in and try on things whenever she wants, and it must always be available. Now, granted, these are virtual spaces, but it's not like it doesn't take energy in the cloud to maintain accounts, especially if they have a lot of video and that kind of stuff over time. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with the lameness of the Twitter files. Already, you're recognizing that this is propaganda. It is literally meant to make you feel a certain way about this. It is a story, much like the Hunter Biden laptop story. You'll hear the word story attached to these things instead of this is what happened. This is a circumstance. This was a reality. It's the story that's important. We'll be back right after this. It's the HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. By the way, he's I think on the 6th tweet already. And by the way, hi chat room. Let me bring you guys. Hello.
I don't know if you've got a history of the super chats, but they're pretty awesome. It got crazy there for a minute.
I do not. So if you,
I don't either.
Oh yes. Well, here you go. Robert Brunswick, thank you so much. Yeah. Berkeley Dow, thank you as well. Heather, thank you for that. Twitter files release feels like sweeps week for a company not doing well with advertisers. Yes, that's a brilliant way to look at it. That is absolutely right. Lisa Miamore, thank you so much for that support. Carol Cobb, thank you. That's plus 666, plus 17 times guilty. Oh yes, because of Trump's company being found guilty this week. We will be covering that as well. I'm trying to thread that into what's actually going on as well. And then and Hal Vickery. Okay, I got back to those. Back from my test. Yep. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Give a thumbs up, guys, to the show wherever you're watching right now. If you're on Facebook, hi guys, you can support the show with stars. And then, of course, the other thing you could do to help us kind of reach broader
60 seconds.
Thank you. Is the little emoji things that you can signal up there, like the angry face and all.
Abby C is asking if you got their express mail envelope, or they'll have to cancel the check. Somebody sent you a check?
Yes. It is en route with my mail. Fear not. You're okay. You're good. I just haven't.
I'm going to cancel my check too.
All right. Well, I don't take checks from you anymore. I've learned my lesson.
You learned your lesson.
After all that Dogecoin nonsense, where you wrote me a check for Doge. Doge. You even changed the little dollar sign. Thank you. Thank you, Saha.
You're locked into the HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So the languaging on the Twitter files is very, I almost feel like they need lightning sound effects behind them because of how Matt Taibbi is trying to polish this piece of dog excrement and turn it into ancient aliens. So number 6 in the thread says, as soon as they finished banning Trump, Twitter execs started processing new power. Wouldn't you put their new power, right? Because they always had a power.
Processing new power.
I don't know. They prepared to ban future presidents and White Houses, perhaps even Joe Biden. The new administration, says one exec, will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary. Right. That's exactly what happened with Trump. It was absolutely necessary. The dude, and let's be abundantly clear. Twitter, Parler, Gab, Telegram, all these sites, WhatsApp, they were all being used in conjunction back and forth, because you had different people on different social media platforms and people on WhatsApp who weren't on it at all, who were coordinating the actual attack on January 6th. It wasn't just that they were fomenting this kind of anti-government idea, but that they were using code words lined up with QAnon stuff that would make them, that would let them know where to be on certain days. It wasn't simply that they were just, spreading bad feelings about America. It was literally that they were coordinating their trips with the people who were providing them with transportation, with people talking about what weapons they were going to bring, that people using bigger platforms like Twitter and at that time Parler, which was sort of the king of the right-wing heap of social media.
Where did that one go? Right.
Well, largest, of the small data dumps anyway, 70 terabytes of user data dumped onto the internet because they weren't. Yes. That's where it went. And by the way, Kanye West was going to buy it up until a week ago, and then all of a sudden he can't afford it. Sound familiar? Huh. So the second thing they post up is a statement by said employee. Redacted name, redacted picture, only the time, not the date. As stated in our Twitter rules and policies, if it is clear that another account is being used for the purposes of evading a ban, it is also subject to suspension. For government accounts such as POTUS and White House, we will not suspend those accounts, but will take action to limit their use. However, these accounts will be transitioned over to the new administration in due course and will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary to alleviate real-world harm. Now, Taibbi quotes that picture that he has there that I just read you as will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary. The rest of that statement is absolutely necessary to alleviate real-world harm. That he leaves that part off.
Oh, yeah.
He leaves off the part to alleviate real-world harm on purpose. Because he's crafting a story. Now, we continue. Right. 7, Twitter. Executives removed Trump in part over what one executive called the context surrounding actions by Trump and supporters over the course of the election. Frankly, the last 4+ years. In the end, these are just conversations people are having in the Slack. In the end, they looked at a broad picture, but that approach can cut both ways, it said. Hi, Vijaya. I'm working with blank on my team to put together a doc to share with you with a POV from research hours, academics with whom we have been working on DJT's language as coded incitement to further violence. That's the primary part, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, here is our quick take. The decision on whether to put that particular tweet or use that as a last straw for Trump depends on many factors, including, because they're talking about a particular tweet that led to this, which, by the way, Matt Taibbi does not source. He just leaves it up to the imagination so that, the idea being that people on the left or Democrats or whatever would recognize the ones he was specifically calling for people to rise up and take their country back and you have to be strong and all that nonsense, which is exactly like the language he used on the 6th itself that he's continuing to say in the days after. And then the right will just go, he just said wanted to put America first, right? So you can fill in the gap with whatever your bias is. And Matt Taibbi is counting on that. And they make they talk about in this, and anybody can look at it. Just look up Twitter thread if you want to look at the whole context of it. I take that back. You can't look at the whole context because it doesn't exist. You can look you can look at the evidence he uses. You can look at the context I'm saying about how Matt Taibbi is describing this from his perspective to, again, craft a story. Now, the next one, 8, the bulk of the internal debate leading to Trump's ban took place in those 3 January days. However, the intellectual framework was laid in the months preceding the Capitol riots. He just says that. There is no reference to that. There is no link in that one. There is no picture in that tweet. It is simply you have to take him at word. Before Jan 6, Twitter was a unique mix of automated rules-based enforcement and more subjective moderation by senior executives, as Barry Weiss reported, lamely, by the way. The firm had a vast array of tools for manipulating visibility, most of which were thrown at Trump and others pre-J6. Now, he's got "and others" in parentheses, meaning, by the way, left-wing accounts, Antifa accounts, BLM accounts, famous left-wingers that, called on or were okay with violence or wished harm on somebody who got their accounts suspended. That's the "and others." The important thing, though, is that Trump is the main one. He's the victim here. As the election approached, senior executives, perhaps under pressure from federal agencies with whom they met more as time progressed. By the way, perhaps under pressure is carrying a lot of weight there. He's got access to their Slacks. If they felt pressure from federal authorities, they'd have said it there because they would have spread that pressure out because they weren't getting it individually. It wasn't like they're going, "Sam, look, you better get people on board and don't tell anyone or we're going to come down on you. It's black helicopter
Can we
time."
go back to you saying that someone has access to their Slacks?
Yes. I just think it's hilarious that, there's a lot of fidgeting in their Slacks. There's a lot of
there's evidence in those Slacks.
There's conspiratorial pocket pool going on all throughout this whole thing. As the election, increasingly increasingly struggled with rules and began to speak of Vios as pretext to what they would like to have done anyway. So some of them hate Trump, think he's disgusting, and they're openly talking about that. Others support him or like the trolling aspect of it, and so they want him on there. And so there's conversations about look, this guy's been doing this. This didn't come out of nowhere. He's been fomenting violence against trans people and gay people and minorities and all this stuff and immigrants this entire time. Now he's attacked the Capitol, and it's just going to get worse. Okay, so after January 6th, internal Slacks, quit it, Johnny, quit it, showed Twitter executives in their Slacks getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies. And this is how he says it, getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies. Here's Trust and Safety head Yoel Roth lamenting a lack of generic enough calendar descriptions to conceal his very interesting meeting partners. So this is his writing. And so this is, take, in context, or I guess the lack of context that Taibbi shows in the rest of the conversation, where Yoel Roth is saying, as it happens, I'm a big believer in calendar transparency, but I reached a certain point where my meetings became very interesting to people, and there weren't meeting names generic enough to cover. Anyway, let me know. Redacted other stuff. Very boring business meeting that is definitely not about Trump, wink. Yeah, and then he goes, somebody else said that. Very definitely not about Trump, wink. And he goes, pretty much. And then the next one he goes, definitely not meeting with the FBI, I swear. And then somebody says LMAO. The idea being is that you can't take from that Yoel Roth is trying to hide or run from the idea that they're discussing Trump at all. Even though these are internal Slacks, the idea that the rest of the company can see it. They can see it poking through your Slacks. So, including your boss, including Dorsey, including the legal, everybody, right? This is a company. We're not looking at their WhatsApps. We're not looking at redacted DMs, right? Mm-hmm. So, crucial to this. Okay, so number 12. These initial reports are based on searches for docs linked to prominent executives whose names are already public. They include Roth, former Trust and Policy Chief Vijaya Gad, and Gade, and recently plank-walked Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer Jim Baker. And again, plank-walked, whatever. Elon Musk let him go because he was vetting this material. He was like, why is this guy vetting it? And then all of a sudden, unvetted, some of the docs get out and it gives away Jack Dorsey's personal email address. That's why. So, number 13, one particular Slack channel offers a unique window into the evolving thinking of top officials in late 2020, early 2021. Does it now? Well, are we going to see that one particular Slack channel in all of its unexpurgated glory? No, we're going to see another photo shot of the same kind of tech speak about what does this qualify under? How do we do this? It's the president's account. Can we do it? Should we do it? And then just the whole thing is, hey everyone, starting tomorrow, October 9th until November 15th, this channel will be used for the following reasons related to the U.S. 2020 elections. Trends identified that require special investigations, high-profile accounts escalations that potentially require soft interventions, scalable solutions required, edge cases of XFN consultation, highlight tech issues, bugs, tools, outages, JIRA tickets. This is an enforcement channel between TAMP and TWS to help speed up our response related to election issues over the coming weeks. GET will start providing a handover starting at APAC shift tomorrow. Like, this is the kind of stuff every company, every social media company has to do this kind of stuff. But but what they're trying to do, I would argue, in number 14 of the current Twitter threads of number 3 is he is trying to dazzle people with tech speak. Look at all the technical machinations that go on. This is how everything is talked about there. I guarantee there are entire conversations in this Slack about foreign interests using cat videos to supplant, to plant, propaganda or human trafficking on channels that have heretofore been used for cat videos. I guarantee it. That there are long trains of Slack conversations about, we've had a couple of these accounts that seem innocuous for a long time, and then all of a sudden they wake up and they're involved in crime. And we got to watch out for these kind of things because that's how they build long-term accounts that look real. They do this and yet I guarantee they've had this, and it all looks like this same kind of tech speak. But what they want is the right-wingers and stuff to look at this going, oh my God, there's like this big tech. So the phrase big tech is very important to these idiots. And in this particular one, and we got to take a break, but there was at least some tension between safety operations, a larger department whose staffers use more rules-based approach for addressing things like porn, scams, and threats, and a smaller, more powerful cadre of senior policy execs like Roth and Gad. The latter group were a high-speed Supreme Court of moderation, issuing content rulings on the fly, often in minutes and based on guesses, gut calls, and even Google searches, even in cases involving the president. Now, the reason why there was an upper echelon and it wasn't the rules-based lower ones is because Trump was violating the terms of service for years. The lower group wasn't allowed to kick him to the curb for all the multitude of times the rest of us, would have gotten kicked off. Trump could get away with it. So they had to kick it upstairs because he got special dispensation. That's why so they show one exchange where Trump goes, breaking news, 50,000 Ohio voters getting wrong absentee ballots, out of control, a rigged election. Somebody writes in the Slack, a rigged election would be enough to be a violation, right? And then Yoel Roth says, if the claim of fact were inaccurate, yes. And he goes, but it looks like it's true. 50,000 Ohio voters to receive new absentee ballots after error found. Now, no, the rigged election part is the fake part. He was taking real, just normal mistakes and attributing that it was a conspiracy to it. That's what made it a violation in those moments around the election. Right. When Trump said rigged, out of control, a rigged election. And the fact that he was president of the United States at that time was what gave it more weight. If you and I said it, nobody cares. We could say a rigged election and people would go, well, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Who cares? Blue check mark pops off, blah, blah, blah. But since it was the president saying it, that's what makes it violative. Anyways, we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
It's already 10 till. My goodness.
I know. It's been blazing by these. They're so excited with the whole.
So excited.
Twitter files are so exciting. They're just so. There's bots coming up. We got bots.
Yay,
Dodson.
bots.
We got Dodson here. We'll be back after this. This post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation shows that Roth not only met weekly with the FBI and DHS, but with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Now, he met weekly because he was a higher up, because you had foreign countries trying to interfere and create bot accounts and all kinds of stuff. Yoel L. Has checked in. Here's what they say. What's new for you since our last check-in? Hack materials exploded. We blocked the New York Post story. Then we unblocked it, but said the opposite. Then we said we unblocked it. By the way, this is where you get Yoel Roth is actually on Team Trump to some degree. He's one of these like douchebag libertarian tech wannabe Peter Thiels. Though everything he says about this isn't like, I'm still mad about Hillary. Oh, by the way, yes, and Ed's 3D Tech is very smart. He goes, might want to explain what Slack is to people who don't know. It is, it is a communication and project management software that think of it as a private email and messaging server that businesses use that you can set up, calendars and project checklists where other people are delegated. Thank you. Delegated things to do so that you can know that everybody's doing their job and when, and that if there's, something in there that, somebody hasn't gotten to yet that everybody else is waiting on, everybody else in the project knows it. Paid item for companies, right.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
One of the big things in this is what Matt Taibbi and arguably Elon Musk wants Matt Taibbi to take from what he's seeing, and what he wants to present to the American people as a curated reality. Because make no mistake about it, that you can see it in the hedging language throughout the Twitter files as they're released, that both sides of the political aisle were affected almost evenly by this, but the focus must be on this right-wing grudge. And that is the marching order Elon Musk has given to Matt Taibbi, and Matt Taibbi is marching to that drum. And you can tell by the language and the lack of, he goes, there were obviously on the other side, they ran into this as well, but he shows no examples in those circumstances. And he shows no entire, chains of documentation in this stuff that shows that balancing act. And even when he does in a picture where it says it, he ignores it in his description. So it's basically pay attention to this part of the message, not to the other parts of the message, right? It's very distinct. So this is from bot application BO1AXN 4KLOM at 161926, right? This is the one of the things in Slack that lets you know somebody is typing on their thing and putting a message into this service because they're on one of the client services that gets into Slack. Now, again, we are looking at not a document of it where you and I could check the metadata of how true it is or when it actually happened, any of that. We are only seeing a chunk of a screenshot, which, by the way, cuts off the bottom of the rest of the message. So even in the context, what they show, and I'll see if I can pop it up on. Yeah, here you go. I'll pop it up on the live stream so people can actually see what I'm looking at in the thing, in case they don't want to give Matt Taibbi the clicks. So this says, Yoel R has checked in. That's Yoel Roth. Here's what they said. So the bot repeats whatever Yoel Roth wrote into the Slack. What's new for you since our last check-in? Hack materials exploded. We blocked the New York Post story, NYP. Then we unblocked it and said the opposite. Then we said we unblocked it. So it was just basically a communication error is what it. And he goes, and now we're in a messy situation where our policy is in shambles because there's no consistency about it. Comms is angry. Reporters think we're idiots, and we're refactoring an exceedingly complex policy 18 days out from the election. In short, FML. which some of you are familiar with
Yeah.
and can't repeat on the air. Weekly sync with FBI, DHS, DNI, RE election security, which, by the way, in the description of it, Matt Taibbi says it's the election security thing that he cops to is about the Hunter Biden laptop. That's what he's saying. He's alluding that all the stuff they discuss about election security and how many attacks and all the varying ways that foreign governments and anarchists and crazy people are trying to attack the U.S. election, because there's a myriad of internal and external forces, that they have to deal with. That's why, by the way, FBI and DHS and DNI, because FBI deals with stuff inside the country. The meeting happened about 15 minutes after the aforementioned hack materials implosion. The government declined to share anything useful when asked. Monthly meeting with FBI, FITF, briefed on several ongoing investigations, and then it ends there. They cut off, Matt Taibbi specifically cuts off the rest of that Slack message. And shows it, I guess, twice. We blocked the NYP story, then unblocked it, but said the opposite. Calms his angry reporters, think we're idiots. In short, and he, interestingly enough, repeats that same one. Two tweets using the same cutoff picture without furthering the conversation, just referencing it. Now, this is a thread he could have.
This is a real razor blade suitcase here.
Oh, absolutely, and it's embarrassingly ham-handed. Some of Roth's later Slacks indicate his weekly confabs with federal law enforcement involved separate meetings. So what? Here he ghosts the FBI and DHS, respectively, to go to an Aspen Institute thing, then take a call with Apple. So again, if you're making the case, and he is, Matt Taibbi is making the case that the federal government, the FBI, was controlling Twitter, making them behave in a certain way, and using Yoel Roth as his primary reference for all this stuff while giving half messages from that stuff. He goes on to show that Yoel Roth blew off meetings with the FBI and DHS. Hey there, I have to miss the FBI and DHS meetings today. Unfortunately, I saw you're on the invites for both as our site policy. Can you give me a quick readout if there's anything interesting that comes up? Sure thing. I hope everything's okay. Yeah, just have a conflicts at both times. An Aspen Institute thing this morning on vaccines that I have to present at. And then a call with Apple to avoid us getting kicked off the App Store during the DHS one. Those both seem very important, says Patrick Conlon. Indeed.
Yeah.
He's doing practical corporate business that supersedes and is more important than the FBI and DHS election security meetings that he's supposed to have as an executive that's specifically tasked to handle some of this stuff. And this is, by the way, in the middle of Matt Taibbi trying to convince us that the FBI is controlling Twitter at this point. It's so lame.
Yeah.
And none of it goes anywhere. Okay, so here we go. Here, the FBI sends a report about a pair of tweets, the second of which involves a former Tippecanoe County, Indiana councilor and a Republican named John Basham claiming between 2% and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. And he goes, you have a moment ready. Let's see. This is from there. We got a report from the FBI concerning 2 tweets. In this, he goes, I believe was deemed no vio on numerous occasions. So it's, occasions. So it stayed up. The FBI's second report and Phil's joining us in just a moment. I can hear him in the background. Will be with us in a second. The FBI's second report concerned this tweet by John Basham, which was the Democrats are in complete panic as their massive push for vote by mail is backfiring on them. 2 things unfolding. An unexpected number of registered Republicans are returning ballots. Between 2% and 25% of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. And that was it. That's the one we just saw a reference. The FBI was like, this guy's saying that and that 2% and 25%, is a huge range. What's he talking about? Yeah. Is he meaning, if he's saying in Indiana, that's a lie. If he's saying nationwide of what is his standard, he's just making it up. That a quarter of ballots are being kicked out meaning they're fake. It's part of a building narrative the Republicans pushed for.
They really want that to be true.
And he referenced the same kind of stuff again and again. Like, this is the group that decides to apply a learn how voting is safe and secure label because one commenter says it's totally normal to have a 2% error rate. Roth then gives the final go-ahead to process and initiated by the... We'll just use a label that says, know the difference between errors and a strategic attack on the election by Democrats or something. Like, of course that's what they're going to do. I mean, this just proves that whether it's in a corporation or a government, the Republicans have no idea or don't care how to run anything that has any responsibility to anyone other than their side. That's the problem. We got to take a break. But when we come back after the news, we will talk to our dear friend Philip Bittner, who's live and in Ukraine right now and is dressed for the weather, I will say. That's all I'm going to say. He is dressed for the weather.
I can't wait to see.
And then we go to this guy, copy that guy, and then I've got I see here. And there we go. Close, and then there he is. 1, 2, 3, and it should pop up, I think. Maybe I have to wait until it goes. Or... hold on. Copy that. Copy that. Oh, there he is. Good. It does work. This is definitely this is somebody's
Hello.
Friend. Hello.
Hello.
Hold on, I've got to move you over here and stretch out your picture because you're listening to port. What? It's good. It's a good look. Yeah.
This is madness.
Hello, Tovarish. I'm just glad your dome is keeping warm.
Hello. Hello from very cold camp.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's actually too warm. I'm gonna have to take it off before too long. But I thought we'd have a show and tell day today. Why not? I went Christmas shopping today, so I got all sorts of toys.
But I thought, you were in a failed state that was on the verge of disappearing forever, and no one's going to win, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep,
that's right.
According to Scott Ritter,
because the Russians are just
they're so efficient.
I know,
and their leaders aren't at all.
We're on the verge of collapse. It's Road Warrior over here. I tell you what.
And be careful, Mr. President. I believe he is a little bit drunk. All I can think of is what you call it?
We've got to talk about.
Oh yeah.
We have to talk about drunk. We have to talk about drunk Putin.
Yes.
We got to talk about drunk Putin this week.
Yeah. So hilarious. Johnny, did you see that? Did you see drunk?
No,
Putin?
I saw no drunk Putin.
Oh, you're missing out, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah, he's He was sauced up.
What good fun.
He was even doing the.
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah, he was doing the Dean Martin too. He was doing the.
They started it. They started it. They.
Do I have to Google this?
Yes. Yeah, you can look. You can look on Twitter and just do drunk Putin, you'll see it.
To have to share intimate feelings.
Mm-hmm.
To share intimate feelings, baby, you got to have intimate feelings.
He was doing that kind of everybody loves somebody. Like he could do like it's that lower lip flap that happens when you mix your liquors.
They started it with the, they started it with the bombing of the bridge. And so we're okay with bombing the electrical system.
By the way, a real Mrs. Musk on
he's
on
going
Twitter.
full Yeltsin.
Yeah, and Captain Jimmy, I always have this hair. I just sometimes tie it back. Get used to the idea. This is what I look like. And it's okay to misgender me sometimes. I'm okay with it. I'm svelte and I have flowing locks. It's all right to get a little
pronouns.
Yes, have some confused feelings. It's okay. By the way,
I don't like that drunk Putin at all. He's holding a glass. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's like they caught him. Oh hell, who told me that there's going to be reporters here? Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. I'm not going to cut my hair, man. You know, me and Pooty Poot are on the road.
You're listening to the HAL Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
You know it's right.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not
That's right.
I was being so charming.
Video streaming at HalSparks.com.
Well, I don't care for you if the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back to the show, everybody, and welcome to our dear friend Philip Ittner, who is live in Ukraine right now, wearing, I'm going to assume, a seized hat from, a Russian that he's taken. No, it's a Ukrainian crest on there, and it's somebody did some Christmas shopping, I think, and of course we're live with Johnny Million at Johnny Million on Twitter. Follow him, give him some love.
Yes.
New Convoy record is on the way. I'm just saying,
it sure is.
The new year is going to be full of lots more music and fun. I'm just saying, and it's going to be very upsetting to the Kerry Lakes of the world. Meanwhile, and to the Vladimir Putins, who we have to address right out of the gate, drunk Putin, sauced up Putin. Your experience watching so fill us in. I could describe it, but I want to hear your take on it. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah, well, I've been listening to Vladimir Putin speak for
far too long,
going on 25 years. I know his speech far too long. I know his speech pattern. I know what he sounds like. He's normally very tight, very reserved, says exactly what he means to say, very precise. But there he is in the Kremlin, in the gilded halls of the Kremlin, and he's got a glass. It's about 3/4 full of champagne, little crystal glass stemware, and he's sitting there, and he's not talking. He's not tight at all. He's riffing, baby. He's telling you what he really thinks.
Yeah,
and he's talking about how it's okay. We're bombing the electrical system.
Yeah,
because they bombed the bridge first, so it's okay.
Right, which they didn't, by the way. The Russians had been bombing.
The second I saw it, the moment I saw it, I was like, I cannot. Yeah, no, I mean, on its face, that's baloney. Yeah. But I originally saw it on my social media feed, and I was like, okay, somebody slowed that down or has altered this video, because that is him blatantly drunk, and there's no way that the Kremlin would allow that to go out. And then
unless they don't care anymore.
More and more of it came out, and it was like, oh my God, he was drunk.
Right.
He was openly drunk at a function, talking out of his backside.
Yeah.
And they let it get out, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And the other thing is, because I'm on social media with so many Russian speakers, Ukrainians who speak perfect Russian, and foreigners, Westerners who are Russian watchers. Everybody started going, okay, he's drunk.
Yeah,
he's drunk. And you may not be able to pick it up if you don't speak Russian.
Right.
Or if you haven't observed
and backwards Putin.
But
it sounds
those of us who speak Russian or who have Yeah, it all sounds like Klingon. The
Yeah,
old Mila Kunis line is that Russian sounds like Klingon to all of her, to her friends and her husband and her family.
Right.
So you kind of have to have an ear for it. But the second I heard it, I was like, I can't repost that because I don't think he would allow himself to get that drunk.
Right.
In
well,
public.
I will say, I think one of the answers very well may be.
Look, I'm not going to interpret why he would allow a video of him clearly intoxicated.
Right. I would say a mixture of him being drinking and possibly on pain meds. That seems to be more of a reality of his circumstance, considering that they are allegedly keeping him afloat. Essentially. By the way, pardon everybody on the crosstalk because there's a delay between me and Philip because he's actually in Ukraine. So we're not talking over each other rudely. We're just trying to catch up and find the gap in everybody's conversation. So that will happen. Just get used to the idea. It's and it changes in depth every time. It's not like a Chris Matthews reflex. Anyways, so go ahead, Philip, and fill us in on finish what your thought was. Yeah.
Yeah, it just. Well, I don't. The interpret. So the fact that the video came out and he's clearly intoxicated was sent a lot of people into the whole spiral of, well, why? What does this mean? What is this? Because a world leader rarely does that, and certainly not a guy like Putin. Mm-hmm. So either those who want to see doom and gloom in Ukraine are saying he was celebrating, so he feels so comfortable that he's got an inevitable win in Ukraine that he's kicking back and he feels comfortable enough to tie one on. The other side of the equation, a lot of people saying he's clearly cracking under the strain. Mm-hmm. But then you also bring up a very good point in that he might have just not, because he's on pain meds, not have his tolerance for alcohol may have changed.
Right.
Regardless, what I find really weird is the fact that the Kremlin would let that circulate. So I don't know, but one way or the other, it was a very, very odd appearance especially since Putin came into power saying, "I'll never let another drunken stooge like Yeltsin take the reins of power in Ukraine." Or in Ukraine. Oops, there's a slip.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, it's kind of true.
In Russia, his whole thing was, I will never embarrass the country. Yeah.
Well, and also maybe he was just celebrating the mall fire. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the only reason. Because if people who weren't following on that, this ginormous mall burns to the ground, like the size of it was like 75,000 square feet, like this huge apartment block, essentially an entire block burns to the ground in Moscow. Not to mention that the U.S. has basically given tacit approval, because the Russians are attacking infrastructure, that if they want to use drones that they've got on their own or that they built on their own to attack inside Russia, that's on them. They just can't do it with our HIMARS is all. And we're not going to give them stuff to do it. But but the rest is their decision to make. We're not telling them what not to strike.
Yeah, and I think it's important to make the distinction that the DOD and the State Department have said it's very specific. We don't mind if you do it, just don't use our stuff to do it.
Right. Because
then we feel that will be crossing a red line with the Russians, and they will feel legitimate in retaliating directly against NATO, and we don't want that. So they're making a very clear distinction. They're doing it very publicly. Blinken came out and said it to the cameras in a press conference. So there's no confusion. This is a sovereign Ukraine's decision to attack internally within Russia, but it's got nothing to do with us.
Right.
And I think that was smart.
Yeah, very much so. And it kind of removes that whole puppet, we're pulling the strings thing, is basically saying that, we've been, while we're supplying you with this stuff, we're kind of in for a penny, in for a pound to some degree. And since the Russians have decided that 92% of the things they're going to be sending into Ukraine at this point, as far as bombing, are going to be civilian infrastructure, water systems, electrical systems, and all that kind of stuff, then it's kind of unfair of us to say, but over that border is unfair. Like, you can't cross that border, which is right, tens of miles, if not 50 feet past you. If that's, that's your decision. I also, before we get to the break, which is coming up, I want to address something, because you and I both follow a lot of these channels on Telegram and others from, inside Russia that kind of, and you've got intel on the ground there or whatever. But I saw some stuff very specifically that I wanted to address with you. I'm sure you've seen that are extraordinary. And again, if true, you've got to, always factor that in, but they're enormous. One is the Noah's Ark story, which is that Putin is planning a bug out. And the other one is about the effectiveness or the viability of 87% of the nuclear arsenal in Russia right now. The mess, and that stuff, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, I want to read some of that and then get your take on it as well and see what you've heard on the, from there on it. So we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. So we're going to take a break.
Hal, I'm going to see if I can get a better connection. I think I might be.
You're okay. It's just there's going to be a lag on it.
I
but
might be
you're fine
on
otherwise.
Is it okay?
Yeah, you sound fine. It's just there's a lag, and I don't think that's anything you can help. Or he just went away and came back. He'll.
I was going to insult his appearance as a technical assistant.
I see, as a gag.
I was going to say you look pasty and tired.
That's rude, especially when you're clearly talking about me at this point. Yeah,
you look adorable and buff. I think it's the connection.
It is. It's I have a buff. I have a buff filter on.
You have a very buff connection going on.
Yes, right. I'm trying to.
Okay.
There we go. Hey, look at
you
that.
Sound okay, immediately you sound better to me.
And
how do I sound to you?
You are clearer, I will say. So that's great.
Good. All right, I'm going to take it's we got show and tell today, but I've already done the hat. So off with the hat because of my
your dome's getting sweaty, right?
Yeah.
So I have this I follow a couple of like Baza and others or whatever, but from those I've started chasing links on Telegram through like people they follow to get to.
Are you on Medusa?
If
you're not, get on Medusa with a Z.
Okay.
They're really good.
Okay, great. I think this one comes from like a link I followed on Spravdi that goes to Astra and a couple I can't read in English, because they're in Russian, but I translate them.
Back in 20.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'll Medusa on UZA Telegram, I guess. I know I'm only on 1 day a week. I get it. I'm gonna have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive. And all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive. And all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Don't forget to follow Philip Ittner on Twitter for as long as it lasts until it cadavers. At Philip Ittner, one L in Philip, because he's just cool like that, and 2 T's in Ittner because he can afford them. I'm at Hal Sparks.
Wow.
At Johnny
I can't believe you almost made me say that out loud. Someone in chat says you look lovely in that hat.
Yeah,
the username is very sneakily obscene. You almost
All right.
got me, Edith.
Obviously, it's a fetish account, and we won't be quoting it anymore during this adult/family show.
You're done.
All right. Now, so there's there were two stories that popped out to me in this stuff because I go through it, and a lot of it we'll see. Like we were talking about earlier, that Kiev, is basically, said, that like the Americans and NATO commanders have clarified their position that they can strike with their own stuff all they want. If they buy munitions or what have you, or they even
I develop their own.
Yeah, they're allowed to do it in the same way that they did it with the water drones to hit the Crimean Bridge, which is part of the fear point, which brings me to this piece. So there was, in following in the footsteps of one of his heroes, Adolf Hitler, apparently Putin is planning a bug out called Project Noah's Ark. And he's got, initially, there's several locations where if things really hit the fan in Russia and he's got to leave so he can enjoy his $200 billion in relative peace, like Pol Pot or something, the rest of his life. One group, Kovalchuk, is supposed to lead this checkout. He was sent to check out China as a possible place where they could go to, probably the Russian parts where the border is, and that there are Russians, ethnic Russians who are on the Chinese border who are technically Chinese, who live in Russian communities otherwise, but on the border of Russia. Latin America, Argentina specifically, which is where the Nazis went after World War II, where they were going to bug out to. Those, of course, that didn't go to the Antarctica and go into hollow earth, I suppose, and preserve Hitler's brain in a jar, if you like that storyline. But that was run by a guy named Sechin, and then Yuri Kirillin was the right-hand head of Rosneft, is directly involved in on-site work to figure out how they do it. He's an American citizen. He's got good connections with BP and others. So there are ships they could get in, apparently, that would take them to these places, I guess, dressed, hidden in oil drums or something. That's the Noah's Ark project. And then let's talk about that for a second, that they're already apparently prepping for that. Maybe that's why Putin was liquored up.
Well, and again, yet another story that seems to have been leaked out of the Kremlin itself. I mean, the place has become an absolute sieve, right. And it's not been like that. So things are, to say what you want, but things are clearly not going well internally within the Kremlin, because all of this stuff would never have come out into the light of day 3-5 years ago, even. Clearly folks inside the Kremlin are freaking out. Otherwise they wouldn't be leaking like this. Now, the idea that Putin could, feign his death, because you're going to have to, you can't just get on a boat and go, because the entire world will come looking for you. Right. Wherever place you go and hide at, if it's known that you're still alive, they're going to be under pressure for, as long as Putin is alive, sort of thing, to turn you over. That's right. So he's going to have to do this either in some form of high secrecy, or he's going to have to feign his death.
Yeah, or sneak out of the country wearing Edward Snowden's face as like Hannibal Lecter. That Jim Pembry, talk to him, damn it. Right. So I think you're absolutely right that there would have to be some greater plan beyond that. Pretend that you were covered in petrol and set on fire, as it were. If you're planning that. But that is.
Did you?
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I gotta say, did I ever tell you my Hitler's skull story? I think I may have.
No, but you have to now. You can't just bring up.
Now that I've mentioned it, can't tear up did I have a Hitler's skull story? Yeah. Another weird twist in my time in Russia was they claim to have the fragment of Hitler's skull that has the bullet from him blowing his brains out, and in the late 90s, for some reason, I'm trying to remember what it was, but they trotted it out. And you could go and look at it, and it was surreal beyond belief. That you go in. I was ushered into a room. We all were. I mean, this was open to the public, and there's a single stand in the middle of a room. Not an enormous room, but like a like a living room sized place with lighting, but the only thing was a glass case on a pedestal in the middle of the room with this little acrylic stand where there was a brown fragment with a very circular hole. It looked more drilled than blasted. And they said that's Hitler's brain, and that was their way of kind of reminding the world that it was the Soviets who stumbled across Adolf Hitler's body, and that there was nothing to this conspiracy theory.
I'm disappointed.
Very weird stuff.
I'm disappointed that they didn't have put a handle on it and use it as a mug, and that's how they determine who will be the new ruler. Is that you drink a large beverage out of Hitler's skull?
Yeah. Well, it's the old Dead Kennedys song, don't forget to try our turkey dick screwdriver. It's 1 part purple Kool-Aid, 2 parts gin, and a jigger of formaldehyde from the jar with Hitler's brain we've got in the back room.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Good old Dead Kennedys.
That's right. So the other story I wanted to bring up as well.
Not to get off the point, sorry.
No, not at all. No, it's believe me, there are a lot of parallels between Hitler and Putin these days, and they're the exact opposite of how our progressive friends tend to paint it in some ways. Yeah. Okay. So the other one was, this is on Friday, December 2nd, Russian President Vladimir Putin held an operational media meeting via video link with the permanent members of the Russian Security Council. We've already said that after the main part of the meeting in a closed format, we discussed the report of Security Counsel Nikolai Patrushev, which reported problems with the ability to use 87% of Russia's nuclear missile weapons, which they were unviable. They are basically just radioactive garbage. 87%, which means the other 13% are tip-top, I'm sure. They're not missing parts or anything. Like, that's just the ones you can eyeball, apparently, and tell they're never going to fly. So, but there was another report of a rather large discussion regarding a second topic from the same report. Patrushev reported that, according to available information, the Crimean Bridge could be completely disabled in the next 2 months, allegedly with the support of the Anglo-Saxons, meaning the Brits, using the latest weapons of the armed forces of Ukraine. And I think they're saying that because of that water drone, because they used some British parts to make the water drone. I think that's why they say with the help of the Anglo-Saxons. The armed forces of Ukraine, they are preparing to strike 2 or more pillars of the Crimean Bridge, damaging the supporting parts, according to the experts who got acquainted with the details provided by the intelligence and compiled a summary for the report to the president. If such a plan of attack on the Crimean Bridge is implemented, the restoration of the bridge will take at least 6 months. In the process of discussing this topic, almost all the participants in the meeting expressed the opinion that the destruction of the Crimean Bridge would make it impossible for Russia to hold Crimea and the occupied territories of Kherson, Zaporizhia, and part of the Donetsk region of Ukraine by military means. Putin said that in any case, he considers it necessary to continue massive missile strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure facilities and thus force the Ukrainian leadership to negotiate. Putin insists on the need to, quote, arrange holidays in the dark for Ukraine. That is to increase the strikes on the Catholic Christmas in the Western Ukraine and for the New Year throughout Ukraine. Despite the president's demands, several participants in the meeting expressed doubts about such tactics, which caused Putin's displeasure. At the end of the meeting, Putin announced he was waiting for proposals on possible options for actions in the event of a strike on the Crimean Bridge and closed the meeting. In the near future, Crimea may be cut off from transport links to Russia, and ferry crossings will be used exclusively for military purposes, so the evacuation of the military population will be practically impossible. That's from internal meetings in Russia regarding this. And by the way, the source for that, which is one of these Telegram channels, which is, part of this whisper campaign, has been right previously multiple times in Putin's reaction to things, in Russian plans. The bridge is a mess. The bridge is an absolute mess, despite the fact that he just drove a Mercedes SUV across it to show that it had just been restored. But the bridge has always been a mess, and the bridge is going to continue to be a mess. Right. It's falling into the sea because I spoke to a Navy a military attaché in Kiev to the embassy here, who straight up told me that we sent Navy SEAL divers down there years ago, years before this conflict, and that we were aware that the thing is sinking into the silt of the Kerch Strait.
It's the reason why they have tried repeatedly to build a bridge across the Kerch Strait. The Germans tried it in the Second World War so that they could get an easier route into Stalingrad.
Right.
But it's impossible. You can't, with the current technologies that we have, you cannot build a bridge across the Kerch Strait because it's all silt. It's just depths and depths of silt. You can't build on it, so it's falling into the sea no matter what.
And it's sank into the swamp. So I built another one.
So I built
and it sank into the swamp.
And
the third one, it burned down, fell over, and then sank into the swamp. But the fourth one stayed up.
No, we're wasting time. We're getting on these tangents. We're making ourselves chuckle.
This is time.
But I'm looking at the clock, and there's so much to talk about. We also got to talk about Ilya Yashin. We got to talk about. There's so much to talk about. Anyhow, but the bridge. We got to talk about Bakhmut. The bridge is a failed project. It's going to be a failed project no matter what.
Right.
The fact that it could be it could be hastened in falling into the sea by Ukrainians using their sea drones. That's advantageous for the Ukrainians because they're right in the middle of a war. They can't wait for the natural order of things for the bridge to fall into the silt. So they might very well do that. Now, if indeed they do that, Putin's absolutely right. Crimea will be unsustainable, especially if things in the east of the country, and maybe this is a natural segue into talking about Bakhmut. But before we move off from the bridge, Putin's right. If the bridge is inaccessible, and priority will be given to the military if it looks like the thing is under serious risk.
Hence why they're getting people out of there now. That's right. Makes total sense why they've been evacuating people currently, because they know eventually that will be the only conduit. We got to take a break. You were absolutely right. When we come back, we're going to talk about Bakhmut and this obsession and the Wagner group, attempting to take it.
But we also got to talk about Yashin.
Yes,
we got to talk about
We'll
Yashin.
be back. Okay. Yeah. After we come back with Philip Bittner, follow him on Twitter, and then, of course, watch his vlogs on YouTube as well by following the links on there. We'll be back right after this. By the way,
we're ever going to do like a get ready with me, like when you do your beard grooming or something? Like, just like wake up in the morning with your coffee and say, "This is
day in the life."
My beard.
Okay. Here's another show and tell moment for those who are watching at home.
Oh yeah.
What kid would not want to wake up
on Christmas
morning?
You can see there. You go.
Christmas morning, who wouldn't want to wake up to your very own HIMARS?
Right.
Boom.
Wow.
That's hilarious.
Boom.
This is like World War II stuff.
This is what Ukrainian elves are making for Santa this year.
That's amazing.
The wooden HIMARS with a little happy smiley face.
That's
right in the front.
Thank you. Thanks
Bizarre,
so much.
Right?
By the way, that would be perfect for holding C batteries. I'm just saying,
yeah.
Just
who uses C batteries anymore?
No
what does C batteries go into the? Oh, okay, all right.
TMI. Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to HAL Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break. I was so excited.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more. HAL Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. Hoo-yah!
Welcome back. So there is, all right, there's so much to cover. Bakhmut has been this obsession by the Wagner group especially. They've been throwing people after people after people after people trying to seize this particular territory for a while. Give us your update on it. And I obviously know my take, but I want to hear what's going on over there in terms of that right now.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to Bakhmut.
Yes.
And, Zelensky said that, in essence, the place has been leveled. And there does seem to be an obsession that the Russians have about Bakhmut. And it's weird. A lot of commentators and a lot of Ukrainian strategical thinkers are saying Bakhmut is not essential. There are alternative. The idea is that Bakhmut would sever their supply lines, the Ukrainians, and that's why the Russians are obsessed with it. But the Ukrainians say, no, that's not the case, because we have alternate road systems out. You have to understand that the east of the country, there are a lot of road systems, which the rest of the country doesn't have, but there's a network of roadways out east that is kind of unique to that part of the country. So the Ukrainians say, no, we don't have to have Bakhmut. The only reason we're staying and fighting for Bakhmut is because you guys keep sending waves upon waves of soldiers trying to capture this town because you think it'll be so strategically important. And all we have to do is hold our lines and just wipe you out, much like they did in Mariupol, for example. I mean, holding on to Mariupol kept them pinned down for months basically, and let the rest of the country prepare for when the inevitable fall would happen. So even if the Russians do take Bakhmut, the Ukrainians are saying we have alternatives, and all you've done is wasted a lot of it. You've expended a lot of min and material trying to take it. There's an argument that is being made that is because it is the Wagner group that is taking the lead in the attack on Bakhmut, that this is Prigozhin, who is the head of the Wagner group, named after, by the way, the German composer who was subsequently used by the Nazis. So who are your Nazis, guys? Anyhow, the Wagner group, this may be a way for Prigozhin to show that the Wagner group is a viable and useful part of the Russian military, and that it will be like a victory. It'll be a trophy that he can then take back to Putin and say, look, we are really effective. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be a significant change in what the Ukrainians can do in terms of their supply route. I mean, obviously, Russian successes in the Donbass, nobody in Ukraine wants to see that happen, but Bakhmut has turned into this just absolute grind, this meat grinder. And for what? We don't really know for what. Right. So Bakhmut, but there's in the last 24 hours, there's discussion that maybe the Russians are actually about to seize it. I saw a eyewitness on the ground posting video today that it was still in Bakhmut on the Ukrainian side. So, who knows? But the Battle of Bakhmut seems to be the thing that's taking a lot of focus when it comes to the actual war fighting going on here. So we'll keep an eye on it. But it's one of those things where the Russians just insist on trying to take it, and they're just sending. I also spoke to a security analyst, well, not a security analyst, a security a guy hired to provide security for NGOs and journalists and stuff like that. And he had been in Bakhmut, and I spoke to him about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and he said he'd never seen anything like it. That the Russians would just send wave upon wave upon wave of soldiers at these positions, and all they had to do was just drop artillery, and they just slaughtered them.
Well, and again,
there was this idea their doctrine is bad.
There was this idea that the Wagner group was like getting paid by the land seized, but they didn't have to give the money back if they lost the land. So it was just like this Pez dispenser where
they. Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that too.
What a terrible notion that they would just like send these guys in to get killed, claim it, tell Moscow like we got this, and then fall back. And then claim it again and go, oh, we lost it because they were bombing, but we got it back, and then get paid again. Like at the and
well, this is Prigozhin. Prigozhin is the guy who went. Prigozhin is the guy who went to all the Russian prisons, and emptied a whole bunch of prisons and adopted them into the Wagner group. So they don't mind if those guys get killed. They not that they would care if they were normal conscripts either, but. I mean, there's a lot of talk. Have you heard about the discussion that there's a lot of friendly fire, or what we call blue on blue now, in the Russian ranks because of all these conscripts and because of all the guys that have been mobilized who are using things like artillery, and they don't know how to properly range it, so they end up attacking one another. I mean, the Russian side is a mess in so many different ways.
Well, you heard about the Russian Rambo, right? The guy who was just like, he literally was conscripted, this guy who was conscripted, and then he was sent to the front lines, and then he got separated from the Wagner group that he was with because they bugged out and left him. So he decided to just walk. He was trying to find some place to be. Didn't know he was back in Russia. Saw some police officers, thought they were Ukrainian, and opened fire on them. Now he's on trial for murdering police officers, and his defense is, I didn't even know where I was. That's the current. I mean, you'd be drunk too, I suppose, if you ran that organization.
Well, and there's our segue talking about trials to talk about Ilya Yashin.
Right.
I'll take a segue any way I can find it.
Absolutely. So, and explain who he is, and then like Putin literally today was like, who? When somebody asked him about it. But go ahead.
Well, he probably feigned. He knows exactly who Ilya Yashin is. Ilya Yashin is an opposition politician who dared to condemn the Russian military's actions in Bucha at the beginning of the war, and he said those guys acted. They were war criminals, and our soldiers are not acting honorably. And of course, you can't say stuff like that in Russia. So he I believe it was yesterday, was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for saying that the massacre of Bucha was a bad thing. This is the difference between the Ukrainian and the Russian side. So don't you dare tell me that it's the same thing, because we have vloggers, and we got this guy out in Kharkiv, this vlogger who's out there who is openly saying that the Zelensky regime is a criminal regime and should be deposed, and is very pro Putin. They detained him for a few days, but ultimately they let him go. They do not arrest people for exercising their freedom of speech in Ukraine.
They only arrested the people who were puppets. They were like, if they found out they're getting messaging from Russia and purveying that inside the country, but you can still have a crap attitude and still stay in the country. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, if you are actively putting out propaganda, and if you are like what happened in the churches recently, the Russian Orthodox Church is still very strong here, and they're very pro-Kremlin. And there were raids that, of course, a lot of people went crazy about. Zelensky is cracking down on the religion now. No, it's because those priests were openly supporting and giving support to pro-Russian movements within Ukraine. They were hiding flags, they were hiding money, they were hiding propaganda
they were
materials.
Materially involved in the actual
given
conflict
to them,
as
given
to
to
ideas.
You can spout whatever you want on YouTube or TikTok or whatever else. Put out whatever you want to say. You are able to say it in Ukraine, with obviously some limitations. You can't shout, the old fire in a crowded theater sort of thing. But, there's restrictions, but by and large, you are able to speak your mind. Ilya Yashin spoke his mind in Russia, and he's going to be in a Russian prison for 8.5 years. The same thing with another opposition politician, Vladimir Kara-Murza. All they did was speak their mind, but you cannot, there's a law in Russia, you cannot speak out against the special military operation. And that, to my mind, is a clear indication of the difference between the two sizes, between the two sides. So I don't support this idea that, it's, they're both the same. They're not both the same.
Well, that's both siderism is the cowardly fallback on a lot of these things, and actively creating a both siderism where none exists by playing down the villainy of one side and playing up the villainy of the other, and trying to create this balance artificially in your picking and choosing and in the ramifications of that. It goes to the whole difference between Japanese internment camps in the United States, which were wrong around World War II, and we learned our lesson from, and we did not kill anyone in that process. Although I would argue people were allowed to die in certain situations because they were denied medical care and those kind of things, which is exactly why it was bad and exactly why we have a never again policy about that kind of thing. And by the way, was a plot line in The Karate Kid for the record. His own wife and son died in complications at birth because they were interned. That, Miyagi's family, they told that story. We do that. We're okay with that in the United States. You can put that in and remind us of how we did wrong and we need to do better all the time, right? That is a constant thing. Whereas, you know what I mean? Whereas there is no, as a matter of fact, if you put something like that or equivalent of that in a Russian film, you'll go to jail.
Yeah, you will. There's so much to talk about, and I want to hit on so much of it. And I know that the guys in chat will be giving us really good questions when we come back from the next break. But just to quickly squeeze one more thing in here, when you talk about freedom of speech and like facing the ugly past that we have to come to terms with, that Russia will never do, and it's a large part of why they're fighting this war, I think, is that they don't ever want to have to look in the mirror. And so as long as they're an empire, or as long as they see enemies behind every tree, because of course they're always being besieged, they don't have to look internally. I think there's a huge psychological part of why this war is happening. But I just saw today this really disturbing video by these teachers out in the Far East in Russia saying, our soldiers who are fighting the good fight in Ukraine, don't worry. When you come back, we'll take care of your kids while you're away fighting the good fight, and we'll teach them the right history. Don't you worry about that. We won't teach them the bad history, like what's being taught to children in Ukraine. We will make sure that your children are taught the correct history.
It's the same thing the Republicans are doing in Florida. That's the whole point. Like, it's this idea that your country's only good if you only pay attention to the good things that it's done. And then, again, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And the funny thing is, they're intentionally ignoring the parts that you don't want to be doomed to repeat. You're ignorant about the bad stuff, then that's the stuff you're going to go, well, we're always right, so therefore we can do whatever the hell we want. And the same thing is true with how, DeSantis and that crowd are trying to talk about American history. That, the Russians want to create this context where their own people will eventually go, well, I mean, we've never done anything wrong. So if we occasionally have to do something terrible to protect our way of life because we're so good and we're so lovely, it's totally justified. When it isn't, that's the whole point. But then, let's take a break because we're right at that point or whatever. We'll take questions on the other side. And I'm sure part of what you want to bring up as well will come up in that.
I hope so
as well. So we'll be back right after this. More questions.
It's just too much.
Yes.
And more show and tell for those people who are watching online.
Oh, great. Well, very exciting. Might even have a post-show couple of minutes that don't involve kittens today. We'll be back right after this.
I'm out. I actually have a dentist appointment immediately after this today.
Is he coming into the room? Do you have are they set up? Is there a dental hygienist like right off to the side, right out of camera range? Yeah. Are they going to roll the card in?
He's very close.
You'll be a dentist. You have a knack for giving people pain.
I apologize.
Okay, show and tell. Show and tell. Oh, gosh. Here we go. Little Christmas ornaments.
Yeah.
There's Patron. There's a little Patron Christmas ornament. And there's our where is it? There it is. There's our Russian warship.
Thank you.
Russian warship. Go. You know where to go. Oh, Christmas. We're in the Christmas mood. We've got, oh, yay! There's Patron.
He's under my Christmas tree down here. So
there's Patron.
Yeah. There's Patron.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay!
So, well, I have a green screen glove, so I was able to make a flying patron dog shot, which is, I mean, by the way, always
adorable.
fun. So, yeah, if you missed the show and tell, check out the live stream at infotainmentwars.com. We don't need the documents. We have it all memorized. And, of course, twitch.tv/HalSparks. Subscribe today. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime, and it really helps the show, and it keeps me on the air because this is the gig now. And, yes, and Philip is showing Ukrainian Christmas ornaments, including a bomb-sniffing dog.
He's standing behind a newscaster.
Yes, right. So,
are we live?
Questions? Yes.
All right, so here's a question.
Yeah.
Be pragmatic. Great name. What are the Ukrainians doing with the POWs?
I mean, they're holding them in prison camps. They are trading them. They're trying to probably not tickling them. No, not so much. Look, the Ukrainian treatment of Russian prisoners is actually one of the things that I am critical of, because they've also done things like, have them call their loved ones on speakerphones, and the Ukrainians are like, "We have your loved one. We have your soldier. Is there, how do you justify? You listen to what your own soldiers is telling you about how things are going," and I'm not cool with that.
Right.
And then additionally, they do things like they will interview them on camera, and then they will put that interviewed material, which is against the Geneva Convention. You're not supposed to use prisoners of war for propaganda. I'm not cool with any of that. I don't look at Ukraine with rose-tinted glasses. I will be critical of Ukraine when I feel it's appropriate, and I think it's appropriate in that case. Having said that, of all the crimes that have been committed in the world in this war so far, comparing the massacre of Bucha or bombing the theater in Mariupol, killing hundreds of children, and compare that with putting a video out of a disheveled Russian soldier saying, "I feel bad about the war." In the grand scheme of things, and it is a sliding scale. Right. I'm less perturbed. And also, look, I am not. As much as I'm not going to put rose-tinted glasses on, I'm also not going to put myself in the place of the Ukrainians who are fighting an existential war. So I'm not crazy about it. I'm not cool with it. But that's kind of what they're doing with the prisoners of war. But they're also, but they also do have prisoners of war camps, and they're feeding them and clothing them. They are not physically mistreating them. There's no evidence of that. There's no reports of that. I'm sure that there are
more provisions than the
ones probably on the front line. Do in the trenches. That's right, 100%.
Yes.
And then they exchange them for their own soldiers. That's what they're doing with POWs.
Let me explain something to people to make them understand that in modern society and in a functioning country, one of how you treat your POWs is actually in and of itself a defense decision, because it is something you can show off and say, we are better than the people attacking us. And it helps you not just in, if people die in your care or they're mistreated or summarily executed. Look at what happened in Armenia and Azerbaijan, for example. Like, it threw that whole situation into muck almost immediately, because that video came out of them, shooting prisoners of war. That effectively any goodwill that they had about being attacked was totally destroyed in that instance with just that thing. So it's strategically smart beyond, even if you might even have the notion where you would want to attack, or because you feel hate towards these people for what they've done to your country. On top of that, though, they have more value alive, healthy, and able to be returned home, both as, you can trade them for other people, and also because you can point out to the world that you're being decent in an indecent situation. Do you have another question, Johnny?
Julia Davies put a thing about that on Russian Media Monitor this week about the Russians themselves bringing that point up and being like, let's not spread this idea of we're going to take no prisoners because the Ukrainians will do the same thing to us. So it is absolutely a discussion being had on both sides.
Right.
But yeah, let's move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Sure. Nick Rich wants to know how your schedule lineup is going.
Good. I did a couple of, of course, now I'm doing the Tom Hartman show regularly on Thursdays. I believe we're set for 12 Eastern moving forward. So I'll do a little top of the hour segment with Tom weekly on Thursdays. I did a couple of podcasts, but look, I mean, I'm still looking to expand my voice because, and I look, I today when I was out shopping. Doing my Christmas shopping, I stopped in at the Intercontinental Hotel to get a cup of, get some coffee, get out of the cold before I went down to the open air market below St. Andrew's Church, which is beautiful. There's a wonderful open air market down there, but it's cold. So I went to go get coffee, and the Intercontinental Hotel is where a lot of the foreign press is based. And it just reminded me, I walked in there and everything was beautiful and there were trees and Christmas decorations and it was warm. People were sitting around having a beer and coffees and chatting, and it was very, very pleasant and lovely. But they're not living the street level of living with the Ukrainians, which is what I'm doing. Now, they are doing a very important role. I'm not going to disparage my colleagues in the foreign press corps, especially the ones who are here with boots on the ground, but they fly in and they fly out. And when they're not on the front lines, or when they're not at refugee camps, or when they're not, going out and doing their reporting, they live in a pretty rarefied air of the Intercontinental Hotel. They don't know what it's like to go from day to day living amongst the Ukrainians. And I do. You remember this, how the very, very beginning of this entire war, yes. I said to you that I intended to do things very differently than what the press corps was going to do. Because I'm a veteran of broadcast news, 3 decades in broadcast news. I knew exactly what they were going to do. They were going to go seek out the sexy stuff, the stuff that was going to get eyeballs on.
Sure.
So they could get clicks and ratings. And I knew they were going to do that. And I'm not even disparaging it, because somebody does have to be out there doing that kind of stuff. I have arguments about the way it's done. I have arguments about the format. All of them don't have to. And in addition to that, at the very beginning of the war, I told you my intention was to be off the front lines, living with the Ukrainians, speaking with Ukrainians, living in Ukraine, to give the context, to give the depth of understanding of what this conflict is really all about and how these people are living through this conflict. So when I say that I want to get on more podcasts and I want to spread my message further and farther, it is not simply to feed my enormous ego, but it is also because I really do think I have a perspective.
I feel seen.
I think I have a perspective. Do you? Okay. Are you in a 12-step program for that? No. Tell me about your mother. So look, I'm so happy with what the Sparklers have done, and I'm so happy with what people have done on my behalf to spread my message. But I don't want to let off on the gas on that.
Right.
Because
we'll keep at it.
There aren't many of us. There aren't many of us out here. I know a handful of people who are not Ukrainian. Now, look, there are also Ukrainians doing this, and they come at it from a unique perspective as well, because they are Ukrainians. And so they have an insight that I can't deliver. But I am a foreigner who has a long history in this country living amongst the Ukrainians, and I think that perspective has worth, and I want to spread. I want to get a large, careful, Johnny. I want to get a larger audience. So it's okay. Let's not let off on the gas, folks.
Not
I will talk.
We got 3 minutes left.
I will talk to podcasters with the smallest or the biggest. Yeah, another question. Another question.
Sure. Quasar wants to know. They wanted me to ask about Victor Bout returning to Russia and what Putin's plan might be with him.
I mean, Victor Bout is a bad guy. Victor Bout, we've talked about this. I wasn't crazy about Victor Bout being released, but I knew that Griner had she had to get out of there. And then the discussion about Whelan and Fogel, they're very. It's a very complex thing. I'm happy she's free. I really am, because she was set to die in that prison if they wanted to kill her. So I'm glad she's out. I think Whelan should get out as well. And Fogel. But Bout is a bad guy. Could the Russians use him in order to gain more weaponry? Because that was his area of expertise. He was an arms dealer. Yes, I do believe that he still has viable contacts within that world. And he probably knows where a lot of the bodies are buried, and he can exert his influence. So I do not think it is simply he was let go. I think that also the Russians do have an intention of using him to fight this war. He has openly said that he would, if it wasn't for his age and physical condition or whether he'd go and fight. Well, nobody's asking him to go and fight. That would be a waste of his abilities and expertise. But they could use him to get more weaponry. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would
100%.
say the one caveat to that is that his expertise was taking Russian arms and selling them in the rest of the world. And Russia's in the exact opposite problem right now.
No, I agree. But he's got a Rolodex.
Yes.
He's got a Rolodex, and he's got
to
leverage.
Get refunds. Right, yeah. Remember those AK-47s we gave you? Can we have those back, please? To some degree. If they send him outside the country, though, he can't. He's never dead man.
He'll never step foot out of Russia ever again. And also, he could end up taking a wrong step out of a fifth-story window at some point.
He might have a gravity allergy. We're at the end of the show. Yeah. Thank you so much, Philip Bittner.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays.
Yep, we'll see you next weekend as well. And hopefully you can join me on Wednesday for the show. And we'll dive deeper at infotainmentwars.com and, of course, at twitch.tv/HalSparks. Yeah, spread the word. Help them out. And, Johnny, have fun at the dentist.
Go get drilled, Johnny.
We'll see you. Yes. No, easy. All right, we'll see you next week.
So gross. All right, wish me luck.
All right.
All right. Hope it's not too painful, bud.
It will be. All right. Bye, Johnny Million.
The dentist.
See you later.
Johnny.
Okay. And then thank you so much, Philip, and everybody else. We'll see you on Wednesday. We can do more.
You want to talk a little bit more, or are you running off? Have you got to run off as well?
My throat is at its near end, just because. Yep, I've got this tickle, and I don't want to push it. So I will see you on Wednesday. Yep, and you take care of yourself. Much love to you, brother. Stay safe, and remember, we're all your mother. And sparklers. Remember, help out any way you can.
Spread the word, folks.
Yeah, spread the word. Share his at Philip Bittner as well. If they want somebody to sidecar, I'll go on with him. I'll make the personal introduction if that's part of it as well. We can both go on together and kind of have a chit chat about this.
Whatever
the human interest story about how we started talking is kind of fun too. So that would make it good for some podcasters. Just throwing that out there. If that helps, good. If it's not necessary, then totally fine. So, anyways, much love to you, brother. Stay safe.
All right, man. Take care of that voice. All right.
Cheers. I will. Okay.
I'll be in touch.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks. And thanks, chat room, so much. Thanks for. I'm gonna go. I've got a little bit of that tickle cough, and my, keeping my throat healthy is kind of important. So I'm gonna go rest it and do some work. But until then, much love to you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out the door. Give a thumbs up. There's the Venmo if you want to help. It's the holidays. God knows everyone's expenditures go up, but if you want to support the show, that's one way to do it. Patreon.com/HalSparks is another way to do it. And you can do the whole year in one fell swoop if you feel like it at any level, or if you want to up your level for temporarily or lower a level because you can't handle it, all is fine. I appreciate the support, and I appreciate your eyeballs, and I appreciate you guys helping out with Philip and helping him reach other places as well. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys on Monday morning for the morning show, where we will dive into, I guess, chapter 4 of the ridiculous Twitter files, which are a big fart in a bag. Until then, I'll see you guys. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Thanks, guys. Bye. Maxwell, the Happy song is a Garfunkel and Oates song, and it's on one of their albums. If you look up Garfunkel and Oates Happy song, you'll be able to find it. We'll see if I'll talk to Philip and see if Wednesday he can give everybody a way to get the ornaments, James. And Jordan, we'll get to your other question. I'm sorry we didn't get to it on Wednesday.